inning happened with the Hooks. They put up a 7 spot and end up getting the run roll win 11-1. I think the big stat here, Ray, we just alluded to it a moment ago, but they issued 14 walks, and you can't walk anybody, let alone the team that plays the best defense in the league, the Hooks, and expect to win.
Exactly. I mean, 14 walks, walks will haunt. There's a reason why that statement is made. So can't stand to see all the walks. So you got to be able to put the ball in the zones, try to make them put the ball in play. And, when you walk guys, you have a little bit of control problem, bad things are going to happen. So that's the way it comes out.
A terrific game out at North College Hill on Wednesday night, Ray. And, in fact, one of our candidates for Player of the Week involved in this one. In fact, I saw the video. Dave Rink has it on Facebook right now of the Reds. This game was tied 2-2 going to the top of the 7th, and John Kennedy absolutely crushed the ball over the center field wall to give the Reds a 3-2 win. Jeff Muse made it hold up in the bottom of the 7th. He ended up tossing a complete game. But how about Kennedy? That's a big home run, especially a tiebreaker. You guys had a situation like that last year against the Hooks when I believe Murph went deep in the top half of the last inning to put you guys on top. That's always exciting.
Oh, yeah, especially when you're playing the Hooks and you look for everything. So when you get that, it gives you that little bump of energy and be able to get out there and get what's going. So those late inning home runs like that's a big thing. The Muse again looking good. I hope. Maybe I don't hope that his arm holds up all throughout the year, but throwing a lot there at the beginning of the year. So
Muse, well. I believe right now, Ray, if I'm not mistaken, the stats 20 innings pitched already. I knew he threw 8 on the opening day game. Now part of that was because it went 14, but he threw 8. We saw him last Wednesday at Crossley. He threw 5 against us. That puts him at 13 and, of course, 7 on Wednesday night. So Muse already at 20 innings pitched. He may be challenging Scott Brothers this year for the most innings pitched.
Yeah, that definitely is leading that way. Muse, brother, make sure you ice up that thing. Keep that thing healthy. We don't
He's young.
Get hurt. Oh, yeah.
He's a young guy. He'll be all right.
I remember those days. About 30 years ago, 20 years ago? Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, way back in the day. Yeah, exactly. Rubber arm days.
Yeah. Let's lead into Expos give Brewers that's their first loss then, right? The Brewers go down 3-0, close game. And again, we'll talk about this game a little bit, but then you got to throw in the nice little outcome from the Brewers and our nice little.
Well, yes, yeah, of course. So here's what Jay had to say after. Now, keep in mind the Expos won this game 3-0. The Expos' first win, the Brewers' first loss. Now, you know what? I'm going to start with the Expos and give Justin Pribble a shout out here, the manager of the Expos. He actually came up with something rather clever. He says Expos reel off their first win since October 2nd, 2004. Now, of course, for all baseball fans listening, you know what he's alluding to, Ray.
Exactly.
The Montreal Expos moved to D.C. in the 2005 season. The last time they won a game in Montreal as the Expos were 2004. So I thought that was a pretty clever comment for Justin to put on the site. However, not to be outdone, the Brewers, well, they countered with this. Dearest Jane, dang fever has gripped the battalion. The men's fighting spirit is high, but General Compton is doing all he can to rally the troops. We will try to rest over the weekend before our march to Deer Park. Give my love to your mother. So I guess that means they lost.
Yeah, those are great. I just, that's when I'm looking back, especially before we do the podcast now, I try to do a quick little recap before we get into it. Those are some of the first ones I look for. I'm looking out to see what he puts up there. So, like I said just a little while ago, we definitely have to get him on this thing and get him up here. So, and I got to give a little shout out right there to my buddy Kurt Schneider with the complete game shutout.
Yeah.
So he's always tough he is very, very, very good pitcher, I think. So
that could be a surprise team right there. The Expos, I told you I saw in week 1, they gave the Suns all they could handle till the pitching kind of ran out. But now that Schneider's in there, I think that was his first game he's pitched with these guys. They've got a couple other guys. Chris Weeks is pretty good, and Pribble's not bad on the hill. If they can add another pitcher or two, they play decent defense and can hit the ball. That could be a surprise team this year, especially a team playing kind of in their first season. A lot of these guys were the Blue Jays last year, but they kind of branched off and doing their own thing here, and that's never easy.
Nope. It's almost like, when you're rebuilding, if you will, and trying to get back together, and you got to gel together. So you see the teams that have been together for a while, they always, especially start out well and, are able to fight through a lot of things. So, as you keep going, these guys are going to be be good. I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to be surprised if they're up there fighting and battling in that top 10, top 8 teams to get into the top bracket of the tournament. So
they certainly could give that a run. I think probably our odds-on favorite for Player of the Week, Ray, came from the game at Deer Park High School between the Meridians and Dragons.
Yeah, I don't know. We had this is have we had a season where we've had a couple? First of all, no-nos in the season, but yet let alone a perfect game.
Perfect game. Now, I think Paul Robbins may have had one last year out at Deer Park, but this is early to have 2 no-hitters, and not to say anything bad about the Dragons, but unfortunately, they've ran into some good pitching. Unfortunately for them, they've been the victim of both of these no-hitters.
Yeah.
Joe Mills with a 5-inning perfect game no-no, 11 of the 15 batters he struck out. They ran into Chad Hafler last week, who threw a no-hitter against them. So I don't know what it is about Wednesdays and the Dragons. Maybe they need to sacrifice a chicken or something. But these Wednesdays haven't been going too good for them. They put 7 up on Sunday, but the Wednesdays, I don't know. Maybe Tony needs to do something else on Wednesdays to get these bats going.
Yeah, it's tough when you run into pitching back-to-back like that, especially if you're struggling a little bit. So get out there, get that chicken going, and see if we can get you some up on the next week. But Mills, 11 Ks in 5 innings. What can you say? That's a hell of an outing. So that's a good one. So definitely going to be up there for that Player of the Week.
And not only that, Ray, he had 3 hits, 3 RBI, and it sounds like he missed a home run by just a matter of feet. It sounds like it was called foul down the line. Ended up getting a hit later on anyway. So 3 hits, 3 RBIs, perfect game, 11 Ks. Yeah, you have yourself a day, Joe Mills. Not a bad day at the yard, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody that's going to compete this week with the player of the week other than Joe. So I'd say let's just call it now. Joe Mills, Player of the Week this week. So good job.
No argument for me. Joe Mills, you're the guy. Player of the Week this week. Bag of sunflower seeds, right? Just don't spit them on the turf.
Holy cow!
Just no
Stay
turf.
off the turf.
Yep, that's it.
Stay off the turf. A couple of other games that happened, Ray. Certainly one I can speak to a little bit more in depth. The Yankees blanking the Tigers by a final score of 6-0. This is a game that I actually didn't play. I tweaked my hamstring on Sunday going 1st to 3rd against the Suds in the 8th inning. So I sat this one out, but I was there. I managed the team. Frank Ngolia made his season debut for us. Frank was out of town the first couple games. 6 shutout innings. It looks like he's in mid-season form once again. And I had Eric Britton close it out there in the 7th inning. So didn't score a lot of runs. I was impressed with the way the Tigers played defense and pitched. They had again Adam Townley, who played at Butler years and years ago. I played some out in the Anderson League. He gave us fits through 6 innings, and a couple of those were some unearned runs. Certainly not his fault. So I thought he threw pretty well. And I think this Tigers team might be a little better than we initially thought after they lost their opening game by getting run ruled. They've looked a lot better. They picked up a win Sunday, and they gave us all we could handle on Wednesday night.
Like we said, starting out the season, sometimes it takes just a little bit and things to click right. So, we'll see. Keep an eye on them, see how it goes throughout the year. It's a tough game for you guys, but you come out with the win, so that's always a good thing. Unfortunately, we did not come out so well in our game against the Bulls. So Bulls take us down 5-3. I don't know what else to say. We played well. We've been struggling a little bit getting some guys in when we get guys on. Myself, having this one, had bases loaded in the top of the 7th. Had the tying run at second, and I grounded out. So not able to help out too much there. But we had another good pitch outing. We had to go up against Brothers, and my apologies on the second guy that came in, but it's their, who it is.
Ray Sauer, probably.
Yes.
I would imagine the second guy.
Yep.
Younger guy.
How can I forget that name? I knew the first name. I just couldn't think of the last name. But
Can't forget that name. Yeah, exactly. Only so many Rays out there.
Yeah. So it was a good one. So hopefully next one will come out on top, and hopefully I'll be able to help out the team next time I'm put in that situation. So that's a rarity, I think. So
always tough when you're taking on the Bulls. They have some good pitching and a guy, one of the best players in the league behind the plate, and Tyler Shunk. He pretty much shuts down the running game when you play the Bulls. If he's back there, it's going to be pretty tough to run on that guy. So he certainly helped make that team a lot better. And, no shame in losing 5-3. You guys were right there with one of the top teams in the league. And that sounds like you guys had a chance late. That's all you can ask for. You have a chance to maybe pull out one of those games late, and you'll get another crack at them as the season continues.
Yep. Yeah, we'll go at them again. Again, shout out to Kevin Burke. He threw well against those guys. It's the second time I think he threw against them last year and had a good game as well last year. So, look forward to that game again. That could end up being one of those new rivalries that we talked about early on. So
absolutely. And there was one game that we forgot to mention here because it happened really late. It was way down on the website here. They had to play it later because we didn't have Franklin available because the high school team continues to win. But that was the Orioles and Mudcats. I had to move that game out to Foundation as the back half of a doubleheader. And a bit of a surprise here. The Orioles, we talked about the rebuilding teams kind of on the rise. Orioles with their second win in 3 games. In fact, they've matched their win total from last year already. In fact, they could easily be 3-0 if they could have held that lead on Sunday. But they beat the Mudcats 12-5. That score surprised you a little bit?
Yeah, actually it did. When I saw that, I was especially knowing the Orioles, with like we talked about the rebuilding and different things and getting some new guys in there to play against the Mudcats who have been together for a while, and then to have that kind of a score, I would either seen that to be a little bit closer or the Mudcats to be on top. So that's a big surprise early on. That's a good win for the Orioles.
It is, and it's always fun to see teams improving. We see rosters turn over from time to time, and now I can speak to this directly. I played for the Yankees for 17 years now. The 2 years before I joined them, I mean, they were just miserable. They were 1-18, and I think they were 4-24. I was part of the group that came in, and it was a slight improvement. We didn't all of a sudden get great, but we started winning some games. And when that happens, you start winning a few games, you start to get more excited, more guys start bringing their buddies out, and that kind of snowballs after a while. We saw that with the Yankees. It only took 2, 3, 4 years. All of a sudden, we were a competitor in this league, and then it finally culminated by going from, worst to first. 2010, we finally pulled it off and won the whole thing. But, these type of things can happen. It's kind of neat to see this in this league. That you don't always, if you're down there near the bottom, it doesn't always have to be that way. I think case in point, look at the Bulls. Just a few years ago, they really weren't even a factor. And, now look at them. They had brothers, they had Shunk, and I think the Orioles, Ray, are probably looking at hopefully trying to do the same type of thing.
Yeah, that's the thing is year to year, you find a couple new guys, add a couple pieces that you're missing, and can turn your whole season around the next year. So, good job, guys. Keep getting the guys coming into the league. Let's keep this thing competitive the way we are. Looking right now, I mean, looking at the standings, it's still tight all the way down to the bottom. So, of course, we're only 3 or 4 games into the season, but you guys, the Bulls and the Hooks, right now live at top there at 3-0. So, see if we can take some down.
Yeah, and that's kind of surprising that this early that there are only 3 teams that are undefeated. I think that speaks to the depth of the league, that there are so many good teams. It's so hard to do. Generally in a lot of leagues or other sports, you'll see it go 5, 6, 7 weeks. You'll still have a half dozen teams undefeated. But here we are 3 games in, and there's only 3 left that do not have a blemish yet. So that certainly speaks volumes about how deep and talented this league is. And there are only 3 at the bottom now that haven't won a game, and I'm sure that'll change here shortly. The Flying Tigers have had a couple of really close games the last couple. I think they're probably about ready to break through, and of course the Knights and Dragons, they'll get their opportunities as well to get on the board here soon.
Yeah, I mean, long season, so got plenty of time to just get things right and keep it going, so not too bad.
All right.
So we got this Sunday off.
Week 3, we're off this Sunday. Exactly, Ray. It's Memorial Day weekend. Happy Memorial Day. Thanks to everyone who served for your service to this country, and we observe Memorial Day weekend by not playing. That's probably good. A lot of guys have weekend plans. I know about an hour from now, I'm heading out of town to Toledo for my daughter's soccer tournament on the road playing up there. What are your plans this weekend, Ray?
This weekend, my son's actually in from Pennsylvania, so going to spend a little time with my son this weekend. Going to do some things around. Of course, I've got some responsibilities over at Highlands. We start our regional tomorrow afternoon. We play over at the Florence Freedom Stadium tomorrow for our opening day of the regional. So got that going on. Other than that, going to just try to do some things around the house, spend some time with the wife, because I head out of town again next weekend for work. So I'll be gone for a few days again next week.
Well, it sounds like we both have plenty on the schedule here, even though there's no baseball this weekend for us to play. But that's just short-lived because we're back at it on Wednesday night, a full slate Wednesday night, and we have to pick, each of us can pick a game of the week here. There are 10 games. We'll go over them with you here. We can go back and forth, but I tell you, the game of the week for me, the one that stands out is a rematch of last year's championship round between the Hooks and the Bulls out at Schuler. And if nothing else, this will guarantee there are at least no more than 2 undefeated teams by the time we talk next week.
Yeah, that's the one that was standing out to me as well. I think we might have to agree on that one this week. And just
I stole your thunder, huh?
Yeah, you got me there a little bit. That was the first one I was looking at. Also,